Hello, everyone. Hello. I hope everybody's doing well. Today, we're back in our live streaming, and we've been doing this now for 11 weeks. So, again, the BDA always like to recognise the Scottish Government, and particularly again this week for funding these live BSL Blethers. And today's topic, we're going to focus on the SEMDC. Now, you probably wonder what the acronym stands for. It's the Scottish Ethnic Minority Deaf Club. So we'll be having we're having actually three guests who are all deaf, who are all involved in the SEMDC. They're going to tell us a wee bit about their work, a bit about their culture, what they've been doing through COVID, and most importantly, they're coming here just to discuss with us and for letting other deaf people at home to watch and learn. And again, if you want any comments or questions, we're they're very welcome. And when we're having discussion, I'll keep one eye on the questions coming in, and then I'll ask the question on your behalf. And hopefully our guests are able to answer your questions in full. So I'm so excited to welcome our first guest, and our first guest is Tasnim. Hello, Avro. It's nice to see you, Tasman. Thank you. I'm well. Thank you for asking. Could you tell me, Tasman, a wee bit about yourself, who you are, what the SEMDC is about? Well, as you've introduced me, I'm Tasnim, and I'm the project manager for our group for the Deaf Club, really short. What I do is I support our community to make sure that things are accessible, that services and information is accessible. We help in signposting people to other projects that can help them also. We're going to come back to you later a wee bit more, Tasnim. But I'm so excited. We've got your other two colleagues here now, and we've got Tauseeb. Hi there. How are you doing? Are you well? I'm fine, thanks. Thank you for asking. Could you introduce yourself, Tauseeb, and tell us a wee bit about your background? Hello, everyone. My name is Tauseeb Aslam, and I work in a project called CCF, and that stands for Climate Change Challenge. And that's the organisation I work for. Oh, I'm sure we're going to have lots of questions about that because that's new to me. Our final guest is Nasfiesa. Nasfiesa, would you like to join us? Hello, Nasfiesa. Hi, Avro. It's great to see you here today. Could you, last but not least, introduce yourself? Tell us a wee bit about your work. Well, my name is Nasfiesa Aslam, and I work for two projects. One for the big lottery that's a whole Scotland-wide, and also I do financing and I do some voluntary work for another group. Wow, I want to go back a wee bit and get more out of your answers. I mean, Tasnim, you have been involved in this project. I think it would be fair to say it's your baby. I mean, it didn't just start recently. How did it evolve? Oh, Avril, you're taking me back. We really set up the project, and at that time, it was Glasgow Deaf Club, and it was 1998. We set our club up within the Glasgow Deaf Club, and we'd been running for years. And then the project was folded, and we realised that we couldn't leave this service. It wasn't just double barriers; this was triple barriers that people were experiencing. So we all used our own time, looked for funding stream, funded sources, thought about setting up a charity, and eventually we got funding in 2007. And it took a year of hard graft to get that, but eventually we got it and we became a registered charity, a Scottish charity. And we also changed our name because what we said was Glasgow, and that seemed to focus on just Glasgow people. But in actual fact, we had so many people, asylum seekers, refugees from Pakistan, Bangladesh, and other countries, that we thought it would be better to broaden our scope, and therefore the name change was the right thing to do, and we've been successful ever since. So Tasman, your group is a deaf club. How many members do you have? I would say we have 30 regular members. However, we have loads of other members, but the problem is we're based in Glasgow and it's travelling. Are you using Zoom though? Yes, we Zoom is okay, but people feel Zoom's not the same. They want that face to face, that human interaction. You'd mentioned that you have lots of people that they've joined your group, asylum seekers, refugees. What countries are they from? Syria, with some people from Syria, also Iran, Somalia as well, Morocco. Trying to think. Oh, and there's various other countries, and they come here with a different sign language than us as well. So what we have to do is we usually start to agree kind of international sign, and then from then learn our sign. Um, when I look at your name, SEMDC, but I see there's sort of different colours within your logo. Why is that? Well, really, it's linked to cultures of countries, because all of these people from different countries have different cultures. You've got cultures in India, Pakistan, and all the different things. So what we thought was it's just a way of us acknowledging and representing so many different cultures. Oh, that's lovely. That's a really nice thought, and it's really eye-catching. Thank you. Now I'm going to ask your team some questions. I just want to say again, I know how well you've been doing, and the work you've been doing is just amazing. And thankfully, you've had some good funding sources in the last few years. So now it's your turn to see. Could you give me an examples of what work you do? In 2009, I applied for this job and I was successful and I got the job and I was absolutely delighted with that. But at the same time, I was working at the council and they were sort of teaching me operational procedures and how you would do things. Also, I had to work with Access to Work, teaching me about translation. So it was a big learning process for me. But eventually, when I started to meet people and meet the members, I would go up and make speeches, and that gave me confidence. And the aim was really to have people being aware of sort of climate change. And for that year, we were looking specifically at food waste, and we were learning all about that. And then after that, I would then teach that to the members. Could you give me an example? What do you mean? Like, for example, last year we did a Zoom meeting and we were telling everybody about bread, and you feel the bread's out of date and you put it in the bin. And they say, no, 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 put it in the freezer, and then you'll save your money and also saving the environment. So, and also explaining to people the difference between a best before date or eat by date, because the dates mean they're completely different. If it's eat by, then that you could potentially get ill, so you have to put that in a bin. So it was educating people and terms as well. So what have you been doing in the climate? Well, what we're focusing on is climate change, and we're looking at human behaviour. That's one thing, and it's really, what does that mean? Well, really looking about your personal responsibility for recycling anything from food or anything at all. You have to really change your behaviour and realise it is your responsibility to care for the planet. It's not someone else's. So to see, your idea is you go and get the training and then you become a trainer of trainers and you change other deaf people. Yeah, we do. Now we do this and it happens on a sort of a Monday to Friday. And, we'll talk about, you maybe see recycling things and all that. and we'll talk about, solar panels, and people don't know what these new terms mean. So what I do is sometimes it's just educating people of what the current terms are, but also future proofing it so that they know the future terms, what's happening. So yeah, you're doing a lot of sort of translation work, cultural changes and things as well. Yeah. I think you're right, Avril, but I think a lot of deaf people feel they are so left behind. You know, the hearing community have already heard these terms and understand the concepts, but the deaf community just feel so left behind and they're trying so hard to catch up. And our kind of our format is just so comfortable in general, no question is bad in any way. So what we do is encourage people to do that, and also we do it on evenings as well. And maybe we'll have members who'll come on and give a wee bit about their food and what they're doing in the house, and that seems to encourage people to have a sort of positive attitude and keep going. Well, I'm definitely going to come back to you in that. Nafisa, can you give us an example of what you do and what you do in your workshops? Well, the example things that I do arts and crafts, and they are wide and various. It could be from making pictures to making books for deaf. And the reason we're doing it is we're deaf people were isolated at home and really lacked motivation, and we're feeling the social isolation. So we got together and used materials that are around the house, paper, and things like that. And we supported each other making these crafts. So we usually would do demonstrations first. And this is an example of bracelets that we've made. And they're made from paper, recyclable paper. I'll show you another example. Wait a minute, Nafisa, did you say paper? Yeah, this is exactly what I'm meaning. So if you look, this is just normal paper, and you just get a stick and you fold the paper really tight around the stick, and you've got a special spray, and then it adheres to the stick. So this special spray, you leave it maybe 1 or 2 days till it becomes hard, take the stick off, and then you cut the paper. You leave it, and then you can decide what color, what design, or you can put different ornaments on them. You can put things like that. Like I put elastic in mine. So it's up to you. And then you can put them on your bracelet, cut the threads. You can also, and these are genuinely made out of paper. Paper, honestly. You can use newspaper, old wallpaper, anything you think is a waste. Necklaces you can make from the paper as well. The only special thing you need is this spray. Have you got any other examples of crafts? Well, all of these things have been done with deaf people, and I want to show you this one that a deaf lady had made. Do you see that? Yeah, it's a flower, and it's really for the wall. And her skills are exceptional. She's made so many different things, and she demonstrates how to make things. So, for example, the material I've got here, you can see she gets a circle, almost like a big hoop earring. She puts that the material around it, twists it tight so it's nice and taut. You can feel it getting really taut. Put an elastic band around it, cut it, make 5 of them, and then you add just bits of glitter. And you see them? It's just tiny bits of glitter, any colour. Put them in the middle. When it's all finished, sew them all together. Put the 5 together. You can put them in the wall. How nice is that? Really simple. And is the group only for women or is it men? Oh no, we have a mixed group. We have a mixed group. It's both men and women. But it depends on the topics. Some people like to join something because it's a new topic and they don't know anything about it. Some people want to join because they want to learn more, and also people are very encouraged. It's good for their mental health just to do something and interact. So what happens does your project provide the materials? Yes, that's correct, Avril. We do. We provide them. Sounds fascinating. I can see in the background you've got lots of stuff. Yeah, I've got lots of things to show you examples of. This as well, homemade. And this was a deaf member who made this. There's about 3 or 4 deaf people. Honestly, their skills are exceptional. and made this as well. Wow, it's so colourful and pretty. And look at this glamorous vase. Wow. And also we do some stitching. What was that thing you showed us with the pearls round it? What was that? Oh, it's for makeup brushes or eye pencils. You can separate them. It's just toilet rolls, Avril, or kitchen rolls, depending on the size you want. And then we just make that and then decorate it. So it's very simple. As I say, it's all things that are recyclable. And all of the things that you've had, or you don't buy them, they're all things that are lying around the home. And then you can maybe, put some paint on it, or you could even draw diagrams or brushes or pencils, whatever you decide it's for. Right. Well, that's kind of good because that links with your work, Tauseeb. You're absolutely right, Avro. When people saw that being set up, it really did resonate because at the same time, we're telling them about being responsible for recycling and then seeing projects that put it into practice. It really does help people solidify the learning, and it's so good. And I've watched people that then have now took a second thought and went, no, hang on, how can I do this? I can do something differently, and they've been volunteering to pass this knowledge on to their members. Oh wow, that is fantastic. I mean, Tasnim, how do you feel when you see your project developing like this? Oh, Avro, it's the confidence you see in the members. That they come and they can get the access, the inclusive communication, the encouragement, the cultural understanding, the understanding why the confidence has maybe not been great, and also we can make them feel proud of their identity and all of the things that we've created. I am absolutely so pleased with everything they've done. Oh yeah, I think anything because of COVID, changing to Zoom, you've all adapted. And yesterday was the first year anniversary of the UK lockdown, so we're now past the first year. So what was it like for yourselves prior to lockdown? And then once lockdown happened, did you adapt to Zoom and technology? Tasman's saying, well, yes, honestly, Avril, everything was just going amazingly up to then. And then after that, we were so worried about our community. There was a genuine panic. It was palpable. People didn't know what to do. They didn't know everything just happened so quickly. And even in this 1 year, everything's happened so fast. So what we've tried to do is make sure we've established that contact and make sure that the members are still being in contact by video so that they can, whether it's FaceTime, Zoom, or whatever else. And some deaf people like Zoom, but we have to remember a lot of people, this will be their first time trying this sort of tech. And sometimes, the cameras move about. We have the club every 2 weeks in Zoom, but what we have noticed with the right encouragement, they've become used to it and everything's working well. And we really feel there's a good positive vibe at the now. I mean, there is a concern for people's mental health, and I'm worried, I'm not going to lie to you, but they're in isolation, maybe not having any family, or just there with their partners, and they don't have access to information, and they've got no one to offload to as well. Nafisa, did you want to add something? Yeah, I just want to say definitely, what Tasman had said, but certainly Zoom had become popular. Yeah, there was some teething problems at the beginning, and we just thought, well, we have to show how to communicate. We had to communicate with the deaf people and teach them how to actually basically use Zoom, and also in a real practical way. Because I'll be honest, we had to tell them as well and educate them that if they don't have Zoom, they really will be on their own. So, we told them that signing and communicating with people who are like-minded and feel that there's a companionship, it will help their mental health. Oh, that's so good that you were all consistent in making sure that people would join and totally aware of the mental health aspects of it. I mean, and if you look at the languages that you must have to deal with, I mean, some deaf people must be like their third language, fourth language. Absolutely, Avro. I mean, the language that their mother tongue wouldn't be English, and they maybe don't have any English skills. So the thing is that they had maybe didn't have much access anyway in their own sign language, so they are behind with information. So there is a lot of panic, there's a lot of worry, and we realise that. So we come in and we step in, and we know that that communication has been a barrier to them. So we know that, so we can empathise and support. To see, yeah, just going back to what Tasnim's saying, what we would do is if we had a deaf person for another country, we would actually make sure that they would get someone to translate and would use universal language and would also use just different ways, just communication tactics to make sure that the person was being understood. Now, obviously, I kind of I kept in the sort of the climate change, but we were helping, and Tasnim Marcel went there to negotiate and let them understand how language is complex and that they should come to us for advice. Sorry, Tauseeb. I just wanted to add, Avril, that the first job that I had in 2009, I was learning so much. And then see when lockdown happened, it was a complete mind shift for me. All of a sudden, I was at home and I did struggle. Life was a dream. So, I mean, I think even someone who's working, I was used to get into the office and different things. And now I was at home and it was just so different, and it's great that we've got all of these new technological, things that have happened as a result of COVID. So see, but that's great. Thank you. I'm looking here at the questioning comments and they're already coming in. If you bear with me. Okay. We have Erin McCluskey, and she has a question for you. And she said that she's just so amazed that you're doing education and climate change, and that's just so good. It's absolutely amazing. You can see the question at the bottom of the screen. Especially that you can actually do it in their own language, so you can show different things and different props to show them, like in the crafts. So you're showing people a practical way how to recycle and be responsible. We've got a question now here from Helen, and she's saying, you've mentioned when you were talking about the bracelets, and you kept saying it was a special spray. What's exactly the name? Do you know the name, Nafisa? What is it? I think it's called wax spray. I think special spray, and it makes it become hard. So I think it's wax spray is what you call it. I'm sure of it. I think it is. And do you buy that at any shop? Oh, no, no, it'll be a special for, like, if you look for bracelets, if you follow that in the crafts, it'll tell you what to do and it'll show you how you can use it for jewellery. So if you look wax spray for jewellery, you'll probably get that in Google. Thank you. But it's specialist shops that sell it. Erin's asking a question again, and she's wondering, was it difficult to actually come up with activities in Zooms, or did it come easy to you, or was the planning hard? Each one of you, I suppose. Whoa, three at the same time. Who's first? Okay, Tauseeb. Well, I think it was difficult to try and meet some members' needs because they really had to maybe go to the house, and you'd have to wear all PPE and actually help them and show them by demonstrating in their own home, in their own environment, how they can set themselves up. And once that happened, they were great and they would join and they'd be happy. So that was one aspect, Nafisa. Yeah. Was it easy? Well, no, nothing's easy. I think what was difficult for us was this was the hardest one because most of the deaf were trying to work out how to use they couldn't see the small beads because of Zoom. So we realized things like that in the office when you were dealing with smaller, delicate materials. It's quite hard to see in Zoom, but certainly if we're allowed back once lockdown restrictions ease, we'll be back in the office demonstrating live. Tasnim, what about yourself? I mean, it's been lovely that we've had the opportunity today to show the crafts, but what we do is maybe have an hour in Zoom and maybe doing knitting and making different things. And then what happens is once the Zoom call's finished, they continue knitting until we get back the next time. So it gives them something to do as well and something to look forward to next week and also something positive, I suppose, Tasna. Yes, absolutely, Afro. So I've been thinking myself, if we jump to a special day in your calendar, a celebration, it's a very special time for you guys next month. Could you tell us a wee bit more about it? I think it is special. That's right, next month. Yes, Avro, it's going to be Ramadan. That's next month. And it's the fasting time. That's the sign for it. Ramadan is either signed from your face or the stomach. And what happens, it starts on April the 12th. Ramadan starts and it's for one whole month. Now, I think it finishes the 12th or 13th of May. They follow the moon time, so we don't know exactly the right date yet, but they'll look at that. Eid, this is our sign for Eid. Again, it's a bit like Christians' Christmas. Our Eid's like that, and that's our celebration. That will happen after Ramadan. Most people think that you don't eat during Ramadan, but we don't. We have a timetable and it tells us exactly. And if you said, do you have the timetable there to hand? If you look, you'll see two red columns. One shows the morning and one shows the evening, one sunrise and sunset. And that's the times that we follow. You can see it. That's the kind of calendar we get. Do you see it? Yeah, so that's the times sunrise and sunset. Yeah, so you 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 yeah, you stop eating when the sun rises and you start eating when the sun sets. So we have all the dates and it tells us for that whole month what times exactly we can eat from. Is that just for Britain or is it for the world? So, and it also has all the dates and it's both in English as well as in Arabic. Does that only for Britain, those time zones? Yes, yes, you're right. It's the UK has different time zones because the way the globe is, as I said, we follow the times of the moon as well. So Glasgow might be open 8:05, England might be 8:30. It's all different. So there is slight variations in times. But it's roughly the same date for everyone, but it's a month. Okay, so just to make sure I get this right, what's the do you don't eat for average of 12 hours or does it change? Well, as Nasfiesa says, it depends on the time. So you follow the time and you can eat all the way until maybe depends on the timetable. We'll open maybe 6, 7 o'clock at night and then you would stop at 2:30 in the morning, something like that. I don't know. It depends on the timetable. I would say in the average, you're probably 10 hours. What do you think? Maybe about 10 hours on average you're fasting for? To go back to your question, Afro, this from Tauseeb, he says what it tends to happen is the times start to increase, and then when we get to the other calendar at November, when the days decrease, it changes as well. So March to the summer, the days are longer hours because it takes longer for sunset and the spring summer months. So that's the reason. Ah, right. Okay. So you follow this calendar. If you've got any health problems or children, do they have to follow it, or is there exemptions for Ramadan? Oh yeah, we have exemptions, and they say that if people are ill, they have a reason. They do not have to do Ramadan for the month. Women who are pregnant, don't do Ramadan. Um, you're not allowed to do any arguments with the family or any fighting during that time, so that there's no competition allowed. You must be good. Oh, but you can argue before. Yes, Savro, we're allowed to argue with each other before, but not allowed to argue, not allowed to swear as well. Um, and if you drink any water, then you've broke your fast. So, and then you have to uh, have a heavy punishment of thirst. That's what the rule says, because you broke fast. And what about children? Is it easy or difficult to teach your children what to do? Well, Avro, there is no real pressure on children. It's up to them. And what tends to happen is they're growing up, they tend to do a bit of fasting, and it's really up to the over 12s, to decide. But they tend to just do a mix of until they get older. And really, the reason that we do that is a month of remembrance to Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. He's our prophet, Avro, and he went through the fasting. We have prophets like Jesus as well within our religion, but Prophet Muhammad, he's the prophet that went through the fast, and he helps us and to remember that spiritual month, and it's a peaceful month for us. As you see, there's no argument, there's no swearing. You have to concentrate and remember the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Also, just to add to that, the rules and exemptions for Ramadan, there is if you're ill, or it could be that maybe that you can't do something because of something specific, but you would be encouraged to make a donation to the poor and maybe Africa or something like that. So really, if I can't do something, I can still donate, which means I'm still part of it. And that money, would it go locally or charity? Well, what we would look at is we would look at the countries that are most affected in the world, like Africa, that have real poor and streets, poor infrastructure, and really, really tragic life. So we would fund that. So could I ask you, your group or your deaf community, what's going to happen for Eid if we're still in lockdown? Good question, Avro. Last time we managed to have Eid in the community centre, and it was lovely. We have loads of food, beautiful clothing, lots of decorations. You bring your family and the children. It's just such a wonderful celebration. But now we're all at home, and we're going to have to do it maybe a couple hours over Zoom, talking about what food we made or whatever. Everybody's desperate for that human contact. They're desperate for an excuse to get dressed up. But when they could still dress up, yeah, but some people just don't even feel motivated just now, but it's trying to sort of keep that things going. And what's the food like? Um, for other members of the deaf community, is there special food through Ramadan, or is it just normal food? Oh, it's just normal, Afro. It's just the timing that's different. But when we get the family together, there's always a big feast. So people, come together for Ramadan, and then they would come at specific times. Family would get together, do the cooking, prepare the table as a family, and then when it's allowed to open, we always open up with some dates and some water. So you would have a date. Some people don't like them. Some don't like the flavour. And you thank the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, for everything. And it's important that the family eat together. So it's normal food, just our favourites, really. So through lockdown, it's been obviously very difficult for families to see each other. How's that been? Oh, yes, Avro, it's been terrible. I mean, Eid was like the last time they'd really seen anyone. People are at home, and it's not. I mean, it's really had a massive impact on everybody. As times went on. Oh, that's yeah, I can imagine. So we've spoken about Ramadan, we've spoken about Eids. So I'm want to ask you guys, the workshop that you've been doing and the activities that you've been talking about, the crafts and anything else, has there been anything else that you've been doing? Or have you got other example of any crafts you can show us? Yeah, I do. Every Tuesday we have a BSL sign language and English class. Wow. Wow. Yeah. So what I do, we have one deaf person from Syria, and they're desperate to try and learn language, sign language, but also English too. So I'm teaching them BSL, and they are improving. And the fact that they're understanding the language and being able to talk about things has given them so much confidence, and that then has other people have seen that and are asking for more, and we've been telling them it's so important for that kind of communication. You're sitting at home and can't communicate with your family, then this really, having this just virtual contact is changing people's lives because they have genuinely no communication, and it's good to join a group of people who understand. What about you, Tasnim? If you get, oh, sorry, Tauseeb, what about yourself? Well, some of our members look on YouTube, and it's called Listen with a question mark. And I thought, what was that about? And it's really about climate change. So I watched that, and that really has a massive impact because you start to then empathize and understand what's happening in particular places like Bangladesh. I mean, it shows you the real life, and you can actually see, and it's not subtitles. It's, you see the damage, you can see what's happening, you can see the damage with climate change in the community, and it makes us realize about that we've got a responsibility too. So that real live information is so good. So what happens is people tend to watch it, and then we come together, talk about the program, and then work out a plan of how we can help people in our community with climate change. That's fantastic. But how did you feel when lockdown happened? Did you feel climate it get better, worse, or people's attitudes? What do you think? I think you're absolutely right, Avril. From the lockdown, there was a massive change. I mean, visually, right away, you could see it. We could see the carbon footprint reducing, and we saw more people on cycles. They were really looking for helping their mental health and well-being and physical health. We could see the trees, the lovely colours in the trees. I mean, even just now, we've got the sun shining, a tiny bit of rain, but you can visually see in your environment that things have improved. But what about things like, do you still feel that we've got work to do? Well, Avril, it's difficult just now at the moment because the councils are not picking up on recycling stuff because they tried it before, and there's a lot of cowboys out there, and they need to do it properly, and because of COVID they can't. But I can remember there was recycling cans. Remember that? Do you know the place in Glasgow, Bray Head? It's near Glasgow Airport. It's a big shopping centre. There's a shop there called Sainsbury's. Sainsbury's, yeah, yep, that's my signs for Sainsbury's. Well, it just newly announced in July 2019 that they were going to have a special machine for cans like this, any kind of aluminium can, or plastic bottles like this, anything. And this machine was to encourage you to collect them at home, and then you'd put them in the machine, and it would give you a voucher, and this would be money off your shopping in the shop. But now, obviously, because of the COVID restriction and lockdown, no one's been able to do that. So we're anticipating a whole load of people coming with loads of cans to recycle. So just let me get this straight. So you're really getting money back for recycling? Yeah, it's great. The idea is to try and retrain human behaviour so that people will start becoming used to cleaning out products and then recycling them. That is great. So it's a kind of a way of training the brain to change your behaviour. I think it's really good. What do you think about the deaf community? You found that that's improved, or are we bad? Are we worse than hearing people? Avril, there's some people that have been really great, taking the responsibility straight on. Yeah, they're crushing cans, putting them in the correct boxes or bins, And they've learnt that from, participating in our climate change, meetings and feedback sessions. So they're looking about the future and they want to really be a part of that. So that's amazing. We've got another question coming in. I can just see it off the side of my screen. And this is Erin. And her question is, she's so interested to know what plans you've got. But now you've got Ramadan coming up. Is there any other project plans and what's next you could share with us? Anything? Okay, I'll take that one. Well, at the moment, we're waiting on some other funding. I think if we're successful in that, then we'll have some wonderful plans. Nothing's been announced yet. We're still, forming some ideas and anything else. But I see if people, need support or extra support, that's the kind of thing we're looking at. So what about your craft stuff, Tasnim? Are you going to still continue with the craft groups? Well, Nafisa, could you answer that one? Well, we have it every 2 weeks in the Deaf Club through Zoom, so we're still continuing with that. And we also just chat as well, and we play some games and try and have some humour and just a general chat. And then we have afternoon teas, and then we teach BSL. And then again, I do my workshop every month. Next month, the workshop is going to be, is one deaf member is going to show how to make flowers, flower making. And then there's other deaf people are going to show us how to do other things because they have some honestly amazing skills. I think one person, one of the members 2 years ago came from Glasgow. I came from Bangladesh and communication was really poor at that time, but our skills have improved. And honestly, you need to see, I mean, she was doing things like this, just upcycling normal things around the house. So these are some of the things that she's made. And how is she doing that? Well, you buy this particular, sticky material, and you can have glass lie in the house, vases, or you just buy um, any kind of glass material and you just sort of redecorate it. So it kind of upskills it and gives it a wee bit of glamour and a bit of glitter to your life. And sometimes people think that they can be quite expensive in the shops to buy, but this deaf lady, she knows how to do it. I love the idea of deaf people hand making stuff. For me, being deaf myself, where I've been abroad or on holiday, if I find anything that's handmade, I mean, I've got ashtrays, things that have been like things that they've made themselves. And if I know a deaf person made it, there's just something about it, probably because they're just like me. And I just feel that there's just a connection there. Yeah, and I think that's right, isn't it? You feel the same? Yeah. Um, could Have you got any plans this week or next week for things? Tauseeb, what about yourself? I think at the end of the March, well, no, I don't think at the end of the March our funding ceases and that will end the 31st of March. I know it's disappointing. It's been a fantastic experience for us all. I've been overwhelmed with the learning and the journey that I've been through. But I'm not saying goodbye. I'm going to stay as a volunteer just now. I'm happy to do that and keep that going for as long as I can. And particularly in this year, because November, we're having the COP26 conference. What's the COP26? It's the conference of all parties, and they're all coming to Glasgow. It's interested parties in climate change, and it starts on the 12th of November. So people will be descending in Glasgow, and they've told us that they're going to be providing interpreters so that we can actually participate in this massive global conversation about climate change. So it's fantastic. I mean, the conference should have happened last year, but because of COVID and the restrictions, it was postponed to this year. So hopefully, fingers crossed, it still will go ahead this year. Well, thanks for letting us know about this, and it's great that our members can find out about this. And so, will there be like key speakers there from different? Is it a 1 day thing, or is it? Oh no, it's from the 1st to the 12th of November. So it starts on the 1st of November to 12th, and there's going to be people from all over the world. They're world leaders as well. They're last year it was in Peru, and the year before that was in Peru. So this time it's in Glasgow, and it's an amazing honour for Scotland to host it. So it's such an important conference. So I hope you're going to have lots of social media out there, making sure that people know about COP26. That's it. Why 26 is the reason? Is that 26 countries? You're absolutely right. It's 26 countries. So we are the conference of parties. I mean, if you look in Google, they'll show you all the information. So when we finish our BSL Blethers, we could put this in the comments. Maybe if you put a link to it, certainly Everett, I'll do that. So that if deaf people are interested about this conference in November and are interested in climate change, they might want to log in. Thanks for that info. It's really good. I mean, the work that you've been doing, it's just been amazing. We're so proud of everybody, and how you've been able to adapt to people's life changing so quickly and then sometimes in such a traumatic way. If you were to look back of all the time in your work, is there any really good memory that springs to mind? It's the one that you would think with. I'll start with you, Tasnim. Oh, Avro, that's a hard one. But I suppose the one that stands out for me was when we had the Bollywood Ball. That I remember it. That was amazing. It was so beautiful. It was first time Scotland had ever done anything like that. England had had their own ones because there was a lot of more Asian dense communities. So they'd had them in London and Birmingham, Cardiff, and things like that. But Scotland had never had anything. And we were so pleased that our friends and all the other home nations came to celebrate with us. And there was lots of people there who were non-Asian as well that came. But we decided that we were going to set this event up, and we couldn't believe it. There are people from all over the UK came. The numbers were unexpected. We had about 500 people at that time. We were completely overwhelmed. The people said they'd never forget anything like it in their life. It was just so memorable. And because the event planning, it was meticulous. The food, the colours, the dancing, the music that went, the pride that people had about the dual identity being ethnic as well as or Asian as basically being Scottish as well, and how they brought that together. I was just honestly, it was amazing. You had two, didn't you? Yeah, we had another one in 2010. And then there was supposed to be the 10th anniversary in 2015. And then the next, we're hoping maybe it's not easy to plan it, honestly. It's such a lot of work. So many volunteers you rely on it. It really is. It's a mammoth task and it's a lot of responsibility. I think what we'll do is once we feel the right time's there, we'll sit down and do that. Well, I think that's Erin's question. She's desperate to go to the ball. Well, watch this space. Thank you. I mean, your club is open for all people and it's open for everybody in the UK. Absolutely. Yes. Oh, your website's just coming up at the bottom of our screen. So for our viewers at home, there's the website that you can log into. And I think you'd had a new website launched recently. Well, that would be good. You'll be interested. I'm sure people will be very interested to see what's happening there. That's fantastic. Could I ask you, Nafisa, the same question really? What's your memory or the memory that stands out for you? Oh, I think for me, Avro, was the first time I went to Glasgow Asian Club. I'll never forget it because before that I knew nothing. I knew no information. I went home to school, college to school, home to school, all of that. I never really went to the deaf club, and I didn't really have the language skills, or I knew the language skills to converse, and I just sat there, just doing nothing really much, just watching. But the information they were giving me was just they were given. I was getting more arrows from a bow. I was becoming more independent. They were teaching me things about traveling that I didn't know about. My confidence was going up, and then I became a volunteer every week, and then it would change. I would do volunteering every 2 weeks, and then I got a job because of the funding, and I was delighted that I got that. So for me, you know, it was just the whole of the deaf community encouraging each other, how they encouraged me, and how they helped me in my confidence, and how I didn't know how to travel, and how I didn't know to do things like that, and I could pass that on to other people, and showing them how to use their mobile, how you can navigate through your mobile. All of these things were things that were the skills that I learned. So it's just paying it forward. And I knew from lived experience how that had impacted and affected my life in such a positive way that I'm now teaching others. So it's absolutely fantastic. Wow, that's an amazing memory, Nafisa. You just taking it to the next level, a recipient of the support, now being a provider of it. Well done. Well done. That's lovely. Tauseeb, what about you? What's your kind of fantastic memory? Oh, I've got too many memories, but the one I'm just randomly picking because there's too many was when I genuinely got the job. They provided me with equipment. the I got addicted into making, pieces to camera and to editing and things like that. Before that, I just wasn't really bothered. I mean, I did graphic design at college and I gave it up. There was no motivation. But when I got the job, they were giving me the learning that I needed and the way that I wanted. So I was learning about, things in the background, editing, filming, and now that is my absolute hobby. So that's good too. So you can teach all of us IT. Oh, and Tasman saying it's so useful having Tauseeb there to help us. Well, I really just think that, from children from at school, you've still got that rich community and that bond that's there, and it's so important. And it's important for the children to understand where their identity fits in and where they're the same as other people. And I can remember from my own experience, is when you had an event. I mean, you had lots of events, and the BDA would come to your events to support you. But I can never forget Nicola Sturgeon, the First Minister, and she's a participant at your events. And I couldn't believe you got her there at your event, and that was amazing. How she just interacted with everybody. And she was there at the launch. That's right. You're right, Avro. Absolutely. Oh, what a woman. And I saw the food and it was amazing. And I knew it was curry. And I was like, yum. And I remember, getting a goodie box to go home. That's right. Everyone was taking it. And I remember thinking, wow, look at all these different tastes and flavors. The cooking was beautiful. Oh, I'm just going to look at another question. Oh, it's a comment, sorry. And this is from Jack Spears. And Jack's comment is he could remember the ball, never forget it. It was a brilliant time. Absolutely loved it and desperate for it again. So, guys, you need to get planning. I'm just having a wee look at the time here as well. If you look and think when you set up, the Deaf Club, and you think of the impact and the influence it's had within your own community and then out with your community, is there anything that springs to mind that where you think the biggest impact's been? Well, I think for our community, the priority being is having confidence to participate in real life and to also prevent mental health issues coming in the future. A lot of our members have become so independent, and that for me has been the biggest impact and the biggest change. And the lockdown, they've continued to come on the activities, and it's not just been 2 weeks on a Saturday. They're doing things during the week, activities to keep them motivated and keep them, carrying on and feel that they can, and that's a priority. Okay, so how do you support people as well? Okay, well, when lockdown started, Avro, obviously, people would come to us face to face with letters to translate or ask us about forms, and we'd signpost people to other places as well. But obviously, when lockdown happened, how are we going to do this? You know, sometimes it would be picking up letters and then, you know, maybe taking a photograph of the letter, sending it to us, and then we'd have to go online and then interpret what it was saying. And sometimes it was even just getting people to simply taking a good photograph of the letter. You know, that was just a simple task to get people to do to begin with. So when you think that your work really had an impact, Nafisa, you know, with your crafts and things like that, the fact that you couldn't have the group there, what was the impact or what did you learn from it? I think for us, really was the change to learning English. There was one deaf person, as I said, who came here 5 years ago and was learning basic English. And then they'd contacted us by text, and their English was really good, and you could see that their English lexicon had built up, and they were really aware of the characteristics of English as well. So other people really wanted to learn English as well, and they were happy to join, and they seemed really happy and positive to learn. And again, the confidence has had an impact, and it's had a really good positive impact, and that helps as well. Any new knowledge does help people. To see, what about yourself? How is it the COVID? How has it changed behaviour for your people? Well, as Tasnim has mentioned, there was some refugees, asylum seekers who came here, and they did not have any UK sign language, British sign language. So I would act as a relay interpreter. So people were maybe from Syria who were coming, and also their education might not be the same as us. There might be cultural differences that were completely different and wouldn't understand. So there was lots of learning from them, but also learning from me as well. So they had to sometimes show me things so that I could understand the context of what they were saying, and then I would adapt the sign language. But honestly, I have to say that the person from Syria was determined that they were going to learn BSL, and they are an absolute eco warrior for climate change now. So that's interesting. So you were actually working as a relay interpreter, so maybe using international sign, a bit of EV and things like that. So you had to really adapt, or do you think now, is there still cases for really, we still use really interpreting, support interpreting if people maybe have maybe learning difficulties. So we can help in ways as well. So it's adapting our language to make sure that people understand, because that's the key thing, is the understanding and awareness. You know, so my job is to make sure that I can convey the members' thoughts and feelings accurately over to other people and vice versa. I think you've had a cooking class. Well, I mean, a stereotype, of course, but you know, it's known that within Asian families, cooking is a big thing, and cooking is skilled. Are you all skilled at cooking, or do you have a cooking class? Do you need it? Well, we had a workshop, Avron, we had a cooking workshop planned, and it was actually talking about vegan food. It was a person who was going to show us how to make vegan food, but then lockdown happened, so that gets postponed. So, but what we wanted it actually in the office so that people can see it and actually taste it as well, because the taste is important. We can't taste through Zoom, so it might look good, but it might not taste the same. But we're hoping that as soon as we can get lockdowns over, we'll get that cooking class, because it's about health as well, you know. So and anybody can join. Is it? Do you have? I know you have halal food. Yep, halal food. HALAL. That's how you spell it, halal. Oh, thanks for the sign. And that food is special food, but is vegan. What? How would that work? Well, Avro, halal is really for meats, things like chicken, and it's the process and how the animal is actually killed. And a special prayer, is given when the animal has been killed. And what happens is that the animal is throat's cut, and then the blood is exsanguinated from there, and then the meat is cleaned, and then that's how we cook it. So that the process is called halal meat. So vegan, because it doesn't involve meat, there is no process. Avril, you're right. There has been some people who have started getting involved in climate change that have now starting to think about the future and thinking about the carbon footprint that we have for animals, and thinking about how they can do as an individual to save the planet. So they're thinking about going vegan as well. Also, our members are thinking about changing their clothes as well, and looking at the different fabrics, the vegan friendly fabrics. Yeah, it's amazing. There's new things. Is any of your clothes vegan yet? Not yet. That's a future wish. I know I'm a naughty boy, Avril. Oh, you'll be looking at your wardrobe full of these beautiful vegan clothes. I have bought one about 2 or 3 months ago, and I saw in the shop, and it was hair color and things. It was for vegan, and I thought I'm going to try that, and it was made from plants. So I thought I'd try it, and it works. It's lovely. And just now you'll see a lot of vegan products, and they're very popular now. They weren't so much in the past. And it's lovely because, you can see that there's no sausage, there's no pig in it, there's no meat. So for me, it's just easy. I can pick it up and use it. Great. If you influenced your family, maybe they'll start to change and get vegan products. I'm just going to have a last wee check at the chat box. Someone's saying that, the foods is it's certainly a cultural thing, or the family getting together as part of your culture. That's absolutely true. It's part of your identity, a way of bringing people together. Yep, so it's just a wee comment. Thank you for confirming that, guys. And someone's mentioned that you mention Ramadan, but you have other celebrations. You have Eid, and there's other ones. Can you tell us what the other ones are? Well, when Ramadan finishes the 4 weeks, at the end of that, we have Eid, and that's a sign for Eid. And that's just the congratulations to us all. We've done the 1 month. And that's the time when the families get together, dress up in their finest clothes, and we celebrate that. And then when that finishes, then we have the celebration party. And that's thanks to Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. And obviously, because of lockdown, we're not allowed, because it's usually families and extended families that get together. Yeah, Avril, there's other things that in the community, that there's a high percentage of people who are Muslim and from Pakistani origin, in our community, and the percentage is quite high. And it's a shame that people are being isolated, but that's what's happening. Let me just check again at the chat box. I think we've covered everything. Would you believe we've been on here for an hour? I cannot believe it's been an hour. I know we've only had 1 hour. This is what BSL Blethers about. It just fills our time. But before we do go, for our lovely audience at home, if you get any tips or there final things you want to say, there may be something that they maybe didn't know about the club, anything at all, anything that's on your mind, just as your final farewell. Okay, Tasman, if you start. Well, really, what I would like to really assure people is that although we're based in Glasgow, we cover the whole of Scotland. So if you know anyone, please tell them to contact us or refer someone to us. You know, we have connections with other deaf communities, and maybe sometimes you might want to visit and actually understand about our culture as well. So we would be delighted for that as well, when obviously time, is ready. But we'll take time, and maybe that if people do come to us and maybe they've not got confidence, in time they'll feel it. I think you will. I think from their audience today, and also we have a Facebook page as well. We do, but hopefully you'll know people out there and refer them on to us. Tauseeb, oh, we're getting your Facebook information coming up. Tauseeb, have you got anything in Nasfiesa? If you want to add anything to our members, our audience watching here today? Well, I've got my own links with Home Energy Scotland, and it's all over Scotland. And what the members in there are, they're concerned about their bills, and I can actually help people for our members. I can train them and give them tips about how they can understand the rates and the tariffs and all the bills, and how and we I can give them prices and how much for a minute so that they can have an informed choice of which provider they can go for. So again, I've been trained in that, and that's something that I will train others. Oh, that's amazing. I think a lot of our audience will be interested in that. And Nafisa, lastly, over to you. Well, the other project that I've got is the Butterfly project, and that's for mental health and well-being. We have deaf people of there, and that's on a Thursday, and it's for 10 weeks. And that has had a massive impact on people and looking at their own mental health, and looking at people to how to reflect and understand, or maybe just not even knowing that what their mental health issue was and how they can find coping mechanisms. And also teaching them and giving them toolkits and how they can take responsibility for that and how to manage it. And that's had a massive impact for people, and it really is a massive impact on people's confidence with their own mental health and how they can look after themselves and not to ignore themselves, that it's okay to be not okay and to look inwards and look for help. Yeah, I can see that. I mean, I think through lockdown, people looking at their own health and well-being is essential. It's been amazing and wonderful to listen and see all about your projects. And I can just can't thank you enough, Tasnim, for making this happen. You know, this is your baby. But you're an amazing deaf role model and a fantastic group of people. Thank you so much for being here today. And I'm sure I can say on behalf of our audience, thanks for